I got my book in front of me and I have my page 2 in hand. So before I remove the score tape, I want to show you really quick, and also a trick that might be helpful. If you grab a long strip and just set that right back behind like this of page 2, it'll be easier to see the edge of your page. Otherwise, it's very hard to determine how far over. So I like to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring it over to the right side, leaving just a little bit, probably about 1/8 of an inch of white showing. And we will center that top to bottom. You'll have about the same. And we'll want to get that on straight. And notice our hinge. We have plenty of room away from it. And that's the idea here. So I'm going to remove my score tape and I'm going to place this. I got my score tape off and it's time to place it. And again, you can dab some glue, possibly if you want to put a line of glue at the top so that you can maneuver. Go ahead. I'm just going to go for it here. And place. You want to make sure you burnish that down really good. Now, the reason why we do page 2 before page 1 is our inner pages are slightly smaller than our chipboard covers. I've always found it's easier to place this, and that's how I started teaching this. So when we have our page 1, we're going to try to line it up at the top with our page 1 over here so it looks nice. And we're going to steer clear of that inner hinge. So this would be almost perfect for placing it. And those look really nice and nice layout there. So I'm going to remove the score tape and we're going to place this together. All right. So I don't want to get my head in the video. But again, find your crease, know where that's at, and try to place this even with the other. There. So I've got that down. Hopefully I'm a little bit off, but that's okay. No one's really going to notice that. So I'm going to open this up. And now we need to burnish from the inside. You'll probably hear some crinkling of your score tape, the air getting out from underneath, and your tape making contact with that paper. So really quick, I have just a small little scratch piece here. This will slide in nicely. Here's your pocket. You've got a pocket, nice big pocket over there, and a nice big pocket right up front. Okay, page 1 and 2 are complete. We are now on to page 3. And our spacing should be okay. If you need to kind of squish down your flowers a little more, you can. But we're looking pretty good there. All right, let's move on. We're on page 3 and we have a couple pre-cuts. So the first one is 6.5 by 7 1/4, and we labeled that a spaced pocket. What we did was we laid this on our scoring board where we were 7 1/4 across. We scored it at a 1/2 inch, 5/8 inch. We scored at 6 5/8 and 6 3/4. We then turned this, so then we were at 6.5 inches and we scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. Our next piece, what we did was we cut a 3 3/4 by 6 inch. We laid this on our scoring board. We scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch, and we called it our spaced flap. We're going to get into our decorative paper here. In your paper pack you will find this beautiful bright blue print, and on the back it looks like this. Let's take off that trim piece. time we're going to flip it over so we can see what we are doing. We're going to turn it sideways here, and your stripes will be up here like this. We're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This is what you should have after making that cut. We'll put this in our reserves. And for this, we're just going to turn that right upside down, and we're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. And this is the piece that we want, and we're just going to flip that right on over. The other pieces will go in our reserves. Let's start with our 6 1/2 by 7 1/4 piece, and we're going to need our scissors for this, and I'm going to bring this up. Notice that we have like a little square made from our scoring, but what we're going to do is that inside line we're going to cut up to the top line, and we're going to clip that out. So to the top line and over. So that is what you should look like. We're going to do the same thing, the inside line up to the top line, and we'll clip that out. Now we're going to fold on those score lines. We'll do that on all of them. And that is what we should have. At this time, we're just going to set this off to the side. We're going to get this one ready, and all we have to do is fold on those score lines. Before we start assembling this, I'm going to show you an easy way to, on your decorative paper, just to get a curve. This is going to be assembled like this, so it's our flap, but we do want to make a little curve in here so we can get in and out with our fingers better and we can see what's in there. But before we cut the curve, we should cut it on our decorative paper that's for this. So we're going to set this off to the side, and in your paper pack you will find this beautiful print on the back. It is this. Let's take off that trim piece. So this is what we have after cutting off that trim piece. What we're going to do is measure over 5 3/4 inch and cut. This is what you should have after your cut. You'll put the other side in reserves for now. We're going to turn it this way, and we're going to measure over 5 5/8 inch and cut. You'll want your other piece handy. This is what we have, and this piece we're going to want to make sure that we are going the right way. So if you were to turn it where it's more long, you should be at about 6 and approximately 3/8, and of course we are 5 3/4 this way. So we just want to make sure we have it going right. We're longer this way. We're going to measure over 3 inches and cut. And we are going to retain that. So we're going to just set this off to the side for this. This is where we want to make just a little bit of a dip so we can see what's on the inside. So what I like to do is, I'm not using any special dies or anything, is I'm going to grab my score tape or something round. If all you're using is glue, you can just stick that right like that on top. We're going to measure down though how far we want to come, and we're just going to go 3/4 inch, make a pencil mark from the top of that. Now we can just use this to try to place the outside of your score tape or something round where that line is, And I'm just going to measure to see if I'm even on each side, approximately. I don't have to be perfect. And I'm just going to draw. So just like that. And I'm going to cut. Now you don't have to have such a wide curve. You can have like a smaller one. But I'm going to go with this. I'm just going to carefully cut along that line. So this becomes my pattern for this. Now, to make sure that you get this on correctly, you notice that you have an outside score line on each side of these flaps, and the flap is down at the bottom as well. And then we have the inside. On the inside ones, I want you to pinch so you can't see anything. We're going to tuck everything back behind. Okay? And you can just kind of pull this back so what you see is the square that this needs to fit into. And we'll have a little bit of white showing. So we're going to plant that centered side to side, and we'll make sure that the bottom is straight. And we're going to glue that down first. So let's get that done. It's always easier to get the decorative paper fixed first with the curve than going back and trying to get this. So that is a little tip for you. I think I got plenty of glue on there. And I'm going to place this down. And I'll maneuver it as needed. Make sure I'm straight down there after pulling up, straight at the top. I'm pretty good. I'm going to lay this out now and burnish. Alright, now it's easier to cut along here. If you want to use your pencil first, go ahead, but I'm just going to go ahead. Now when I cut, I'm going to leave a little bit of white showing. If you were unable to, then you can just cut along that. But I'm just going to be real careful and cut that curve, trying to leave a little bit of white. And then I can always clean it up to try and even it up on the sides if I need to. And I'm actually just going to go with that. That's good enough for me. All right, so this pocket, now that we have that, we can fix our sides so that when we run it, it looks flat on the sides. And then on the bottom, we'll make sure that our creases are done nicely. And we're going to put some glue down in the corner here. And I'm going to work each side a little bit here. So I'm going to hold this in. I can use my scoring tool just to make sure that it makes contact there. And you may have to hold it like me for a moment. Just trying to keep it even. So that looks good enough for right now for me. Now for this, what we can do, and I'm going to show you another trick. If you were to, your flap is going to be at the top now. You have that bottom score line and the top one. So we're just going to crease along the bottom one. So all we see is what we need. And if you were to place this, you will notice you have a nice white border. But I would like to clip the edges. So you do not need to measure this. You just want to take a little bit off the side. Now when you do that, hang on to this. This is now your pattern. What you're going to do is flip it over, drag it to the corner, and now when you cut, you will get the same. It's your little pattern. And you have even sides. So that's just a little trick that I've learned along the way. We are going to apply some glue. and we will glue this down. Again, I have my flaps tucked. They're at the top, back behind. And I'm going to try and center this, leaving the white border even on each side, straight up here and along that bottom. And I think I got that fairly good there. Now you can pull this flap up, and what you can do is just cut. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a white border. If you want to use this corner to come back over here, you can do that to make sure you get a straight edge, or you can just eyeball it. For me, I'm just going to eyeball it and call that good. All right, this piece here, what's going to happen is, if you notice, we have that little spacing, and so you'll want to fix it so it is straight, flat along the top. And we're just going to place it right over the top of this other one so the flap is back behind. And we're going to take a look, make sure it's straight. And we're just going to kind of hang on to it and slide some glue up underneath this here. Make sure you're at the edge of your piece. And over here, right underneath that flap. And eventually this will get all glued down. So, okay, we'll wait for that glue to set. But what happens is you have this now, okay? And when we place it, it's going to go like that. But I would like to get us a piece that fits right in here. And what I think we're going to do is grab some scratch pieces. In your reserves, you should find a long, skinny piece of your green. Matters not what's on the back at this point. This is what mine looks like. If you can locate it, locate it. All we're going to do at this point is we're going to measure over a 1/2 inch and we're going to cut a strip. So let's do that. So here's mine. It's going to be too long. But all I'm going to do is just kind of slide that right on in here, and we're going to measure to fit to make sure it fits in our crease. So as you can see, I kind of slid it in there all the way over, and I'm just using the crease of this at this point, and I'm going to look to see how far over this needs to be. So I'm just going to pull that back so you can see. So that's in there. And we're going to measure to fit. It may take a couple times, but I'm going to guess right here. And I'm going to clip this, and then I'm going to see if this will slide back. If I need to trim off more, I will. But this will look fine. And all I'm looking to do is cover up the white, not the blue that's going to show through. So when I lay it, and it's all glued down, you'll see blue with this stripe. Let's apply some glue to this. Now, if you'd rather use the other side, you can. This is just making some use of some pieces. And I'm going to hold this up when I do it so I don't glue down anything I shouldn't be. You're going to make sure that you are underneath that bottom score line when you do this. Just kind of tuck it on in there so it does not mess with that score line, because you want to be able to get that in there. Now for this, we probably should have cut for this before, but what we're going to do is we are going to fasten a magnet here, and then we can flip it over, put the magnet here, and we can always put a little scratch piece to cover it up so when we put our stuff in, it does not snag. So let's grab a plus and a minus. And I'm going to come down, probably about a 1/2 inch or so from the top there, and I'll press it. Now, for this, I'm going to close it. Make sure you're flat at the top, and you'll let it find its mate. Now one thing with this is my sticky is here. So I'm just going to put a little glue underneath that. And we are going to grab some of our scrap white cardstock. And we're going to glue that back behind. And we're going to make sure that we get the edges so there's no snagging when we put down or place photo mats in there, or pictures or memorabilia. And we'll remove this. Come on, little guy. There we go. And again, make sure that you get your edges pretty good. And then we'll wipe off any excess. And we'll press. Make sure you get that down, those edges. Okay, so here it is. It's going to lay flat like that, and it's going to look good. Here we go. We're going to use glue for this because it's easier to maneuver. And you're just going to want to make sure you get along your edges. A lot of times I like to use score tape, but I'm going to use glue this time so that we make sure we can move our piece around if needed to get it straight. Okay, so now make sure your flap is shut. And we're going to place this probably about 3/4 of an inch from the bottom or so, and even side to side. That looks pretty straight. I'm going to open this up now, and this is where we're going to burnish that little band down and get our tool in there to get down the sides and the bottom. And that's all there is to that. And that looks good. Before we move on, let's grab our 1/4 inch score tape, and we are going to place it along the outside like a picture frame all the way around. And then what we're going to do, because we can put a lot of mats in there, we're going to just make sure we add our score tape the way we should. We'll go 1 down the center, and I think 2 on each side will be okay. Don't remove your score tape yet. I thought it would be much easier before we do anything. I'm going to burnish that down really good. And that looks good. You should be able to get quite a bit on in there. You should be able to locate that strip. It looks like this. It says, "Memories with you, you are my everything." And on the back it looks like that. Let's grab "Memories with you." And we're just going to cut. And we're going to glue this down to a white piece of cardstock, and we're going to cut around, leaving a white border. And just a little bit of white. If you'd rather use your paper cutter, make sure you're straight. Do so. I probably should have. So we have this, and I think we're going to go right here in the middle. Let's grab maybe a single blue, a leaf. Now with the leaves, I've already glued this down. I'm just going to clip off those stems and glue them where I want them. I'll stick one here and then the other. I'll grab a little blue flower. This is just a single. dry. And I want one of those single white ones, I think, in there. And let's see, where do I want that? I think I want to just go right here. And I'll let that dry. And I'm going to make a ribbon with, or a bow with my ribbon. And we're going to place that too. Oh, that's pretty. I'm going to just place that right there. Easy. And I'm going to let this all dry before I place this in my book so my bow does not move on me. Wipe up any glue. Page 3 is complete. And in just a moment, as soon as this dries, we're going to be placing this in our book together. I think mine's dried up to go in the book. So I removed the score tape backing. Let's grab our book. Again, we're going to do the same thing we did before. And you'll want, before you remove the score tape, you'll want to just kind of maneuver it to take a look at where you're going to be. But remember, steer clear at least 1/8 of an inch away from this. So, and try to stay even top to bottom. And that's kind of hard, especially when you're trying to look over your page. So try to line this up pretty good over here. And then I'm just going to place it. There we go. And then we're going to burnish and make sure we get those edges. And then I can open this up and get my tool in there, make sure that the score tape is down. And I think we're just going to leave that alone. You can always go back and cut a piece, but I think that's perfectly fine. Really quick, before we move on to page 4, I started thinking about this. When you guys come back to add this, we already know that it's easier to cut our decorative paper first, right? And then cut around it. So I want to show you a tip, not just for this tutorial, but for other things that you may be working with on how to manipulate your paper to fit some of these curves after the fact. So one thing is, in your reserves you will find this piece. It is 5 3/4 inch wide, which matches the width of this decorative paper. But what we did on this was we only went 3 inches. And this is a little bit larger than 3 inches. This is about 3 3/8. So looking at your paper like this, let's do this together and I'll show you a helpful tip for coming back after the fact to lay your paper to get it to fit those angles. We're going to measure over 3 inches and we're going to cut. So here's the thing, if you were to place this down, we already know side to side we're going to be even. Now there's several ways to do this. Is laying your paper down after the fact while it's in the book and maybe drawing a pencil line. But what I'd like you to do is a little bit easier to keep this stable. That would be pretty. But I think we're going to go with this showing up. So at the bottom of one side, I want you to put some glue. Just like that. And then we're going to place this down. Remember, we are going to stay away from that little hinge area. So we'll leave a little room. And we'll have a little bit of white showing up here. Just get it where it's supposed to be, side by side and even. And we're going to burnish that down, let the glue set. Alright. Sometimes working in the book after the fact is a little harder than when you have the page out. So notice how we have that curve. You can manipulate your paper. And there's no glue under here, so we can still get in there. And I want you to curl back and try to make a straight line. And then I want you to crease it. See? And we're going to do the same over here. Just kind of crease it fold it over until it looks like it's where it's supposed to be, and then we're going to crease it with our fingernail. Then what you can do is fold it completely back. And what I like to do is, once we got that crease, is lightly with the side of my pencil. Go like that. Fold that one back. And again, lightly with the side of my pencil. So when I open it up, I can see where it is I'm to cut. And it's stationary in the book. And it's a lot easier. Now I glue it down. So that's a tip for you. And we can do that. And that's helpful after the fact with a lot of different things when we're making mini albums. Sometimes we do come back and say, I really would like to do this or that, you know, and that is just one way to get a nice white outline there. And then we're just going to burnish that down. And that was pretty darn simple. We are now on to page 4. We are on page 4 and we have 3 pre-cuts. This is our double fold out and pocket page. Let's start with our first fold out, what we did. This is a 5 by 7 1/4 and we called it a top fold out. And we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 5 inches across. We scored this at a 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch. The next, we had a 6 by 7 1/4. We called it our bottom fold out. We laid this so we were 6 inches across. We scored this one at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. The last was our pocket, and this was a 3 by 6 1/2, and there's no scoring. Let's get our main page out of our paper pack. In your paper pack, you will find another one of these, and on the back, it's that beautiful blue, just like we used on page 3. Let's take off that trim piece. We're going to turn this sideways once again. Our stripes are going to be up here. We're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This is the piece we're going to be cutting on. We'll just turn it, we'll turn it this, no, we're going to turn it upside down. Have this over here, and we'll measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This is going to be our base decorative page. We're first going to be working with our bottom fold out, and we're going to have our hinges going to be off to the right, and we'll just fold on those score lines. We have an outside and an inside score line. On the outside one, I'd like you just to pinch and crease it, so you'll still be able to see the other score line. We're just going to slide that back behind. We'll make sure it's even with our top and bottom. We're going to pinch and hold on to it so that it does not slip around. If it slides, you'll want to realign. And we're going to add our glue to the flap. Burnish that. Wipe up any glue, and then we're going to check to make sure there's no glue seeped in there. And we'll just fold back on that other score line now, push in so that it feels flat and it's where it's supposed to be. Now on this page, we're going to be using ribbon as our tie rather than our magnets. But we also have a pocket, and that pocket is going to be placed in here. So let's find our paper for this. And you know what? In your reserves, let's see, perfect. You'll find this piece. This is about 4 3/4 inch wide, and I think that'll be fine. Give us a little white border. And it is also about 7 1/4 inches long. And how I am actually, let's look at it like this. I think we'll be chopping off part of the bottom over here. So if you're looking at your piece like this, we're just going to measure over 7 inches and cut that. That sure is pretty. And that will give us a white border here and here. And then we can balance that out from the top and bottom here in a moment. What we're going to do is make a pocket, and it's going to go down to cover up that. And let's grab our 1/4 inch. And we're just going to place it at the bottom of this panel. And where is my little tool? It's probably right in front of my face. It is. And we're just going to place this pocket on like we've done before. I'm going to give a little bend, bring it down to the bottom, make sure I have equal overhang. I'll press and press out. Now all we have to do is pull this over to the back, and we'll glue down these flaps. Very easy pockets. Over here. So that's what it should look like. We're going to apply glue to this, and we'll center this top to bottom, side to side, and you will have probably almost a 1/4 inch of white borders on the side for this one, and that's okay. We'll make use of our scraps, and it will look good. In the long run, our paper will go farther for us. So I'll place that down. I think that's pretty straight on there. And burnish. And we're going to find our paper for this. Oh, now you find this in your reserves. I just saw something. In your reserves, you will find this long piece. You will have these little pieces here. Let's just put that off to the side. Idea sprang up on me. That would be pretty on the outside for sure. So I'm just kind of fishing around in my reserves here, trying to find something that I feel would look really good. And I think I found it. So in your reserves, you will find another one of these. Okay, we're not going to use this color. We're actually going to be using this to place down, and it'll be a perfect fit side to side. But when we're doing this, we're going to be looking at it like this, so we have the same leftovers. What I'd like you to do is just place that right on your pocket, center side to side. Leave yourself a little lip, and we're going to measure to fit this. Down at the bottom of our pocket where I can still see, I'll make a pencil mark, and I am going to cut that. Do it that way. I'm going to verify I fit there. I do. So now glue's going to go on this side because I want the blue up. And then those little doors that I had you just fish out of your reserves, we're going to work with those. Because I think they're nice. Okay, this. All I'm going to do is cut straight across the top of that one there. This little piece can go back in our reserves. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut around these. I'm going to cut so that I have that hinge there. And I'll do the same with the other one. So I'll just kind of maneuver my scissors in there. Just doing it by hand. And then this, and this one is not a perfect straight up and down because it's a worn little panel. And I'll do the same with this one. The best I can anyway. Okay, these scraps, let's just put those in our reserves. And if I turn this one upside down, it'll look okay. But I do want to back this with some white cardstock, like I always do. And then we'll cut out around it and leave a little bit of white. Now, one thing I would like to do is when you're placing this down on one of your cut pieces, and we're just going to leave a little sliver of white, I'm going to maneuver myself in and around this, so I want to show you first. And I'm going to come out probably about a 1/4 inch from the side there, leave a little bit of that. And then you can put it on your scoring board, but I'm just going to fold it back, just like that. It does not need to be perfect, but it will look good either way. So what we have is a little hinge off to the right there, so we will be able to have that open. So there's one. I'm just going to use the corner over here, so I can try to get this halfway on straight. And I'm going to leave a 1/4 inch from the side. That is a better idea than my original one. I think that this will be kind of cool. Make sure that's down, and I am just going to fold this back. So now, and I'll fold that back a little bit better over there. So now, hinge to the right and to the left. And I think we'll just kind of press those up, or you can even overlap them right like that. That's what I want to do. So glue here and glue here. I'm going to have to give this some time. And then I'm just going to place it in that pocket. Kind of try and line up the top and the bottom. Get this on straight. Well, that's good enough for sure. And we're going to burnish that down. And then we're going to open it up, make sure we don't have any, I'm placing this down on that hinge because I know it's still not set. So open that one up. So I'm not going to use a magnet for this because when this is all closed anyway, it will hold itself down. And then the one comes over the top, and then we'll have a ribbon. So there's that. I do want to get some small little pieces of paper in there. And this would be a great time to grab this one out of your reserves. And I'm just going to measure to fit, and I'm going to make sure that I leave my little things alone there, but I'm going to leave a little bit of white. So I'll just come here. So I know my crease is right here, so I'm just going to come to the left. And then over here, make sure I have a border. And so my first one, I'm going to cut down this way first, then I'll cut over. So I'm not cutting this short. And I'll show you. So little teeny. This is a great place to journal or put a little picture in there. So that one looks good. And I think I'll just use that as my template for cutting this next one. And I think I'll just do it by hand. So now we're leaving this alone, so it's a good piece to put back in our reserves. And if I need to trim this down a little more, I will. So I think that'll be okay in there. I just need to get some of the pencil mark off. and we'll glue that down. Just another way to use your stuff. Just watch the score line. If you need to trim it down a little more narrow, you can. Make sure we're not on the score line. I think I'm pretty good there. Yep. And then I'll just make sure I burnish down really good. And there we go. Oh, that looks good. We're going to close that up. And we're going to find our paper for this, and then we'll attach our other fold out. In your reserves, you will find another one of these. On the back, it looks like this. We're going to turn this. We're going to measure over 7 inches and cut. And this is what you should have. And I want this one to be a little more fuller. So I'm going to just stick that. I'm going to make sure that I'm even top and bottom with equal white border. I'm going to place this across. And I'm going to have overhang. So I'm just going to measure to fit this one so I can center in the house. Now I'm going to trim this, and those leftover strips we'll definitely put in our reserves. Do that really quick. So there is mine, and I'm going to verify that it fits nicely, and it does. So I am going to apply my glue. When we're done getting the other fold out and the paper on that, then we will tackle the ribbons. And I think that looks good enough. And I like that. I think that looks really cute. All right, our next fold out, and this one has a wider spacing so we can get over this spacing comfortably. So we'll just fold on that, use our tool. And we're going to attach it. So you have your spacing in there. And we're going to slide this over the other one so that it fits nicely. We'll pinch and hold that, and we're going to glue this down. Sometimes it's easier just to get your glue on this back half than this, but just make sure it fits around. And that should be good. And I'll open it up to make sure I do not have any glue seeping out, and I don't. So I'm good. I'm going to keep this open. And I'm going to find our next piece that might look nice in there. In your reserves, you will find this long, it's 12 inches, strip, and it is about 4 3/4. So I'm going to measure this. I think I want to go with 4 1/8 on this one. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look at it like this, measure over 7 inches and cut. And I'm going to verify what I want us to cut at. So that is what you have. We're going to measure over 4 1/8 inch and cut. And we will flip that over, and that should fit in there, giving you a nice white border and places to put photos with the solid. And we'll glue that down and burnish it down. And I'm just trying to match it up with the top of that paper so it flows nicely. Push that over. And it is not interfering with that score line there. Very nice. For this one, when I was digging around in my reserves, I found this piece. And what we're going to do is we'll just measure to fit on this one. So on the back, it looks like this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to leave a nice white border top and the side. It's going to overhang, of course, until we get this trimmed down. So I'll start down here. I'll make a pencil mark. I know I need to cut this way, and then I'll do that way. So I'll cut this way and then that way. And this is what I have. This would make for a great little photo right here for sure. And I'm going to glue that down. Okay, that looks good. Let's get some of our ribbon out. And before I cut it off, what I'm going to do is slide about an inch back behind there. And I'll hold it down. And I just want to make sure that I have enough tie. And I can always cut it down. So better safe than sorry, have too short. So I'm going to tell you what I cut here. It's probably about 12 inches worth, I imagine. No, we're about 13 inches. So I'm going to cut two that are 13 inches, and then I can cut it down once I get it tied. All right, let's flip this over, and I'm going to grab my fabric glue, and I'm going to do about an inch in, so put that there. And I'll do the same, and what I want to do is try to keep these the same. And I'm going to lift this up so I can see what I'm doing here. I'll get my other one, place it down. If it's a little off, it isn't going to hurt anything, but I try to stay even. Okay, so I got that down. While that's drying, I can get my score tape on there. And I'll just use my 1/4 inch. And we'll do the same way we've done before, all the way around the outside like a picture frame. We're going to go 1 down the middle, and then 2 on either side of that middle point. And this is just another way to tie down or keep a page down when you're flipping through using ties rather than magnets. I like the magnets best, but sometimes I like to add something different, like I did today, and use the ties. Okay, make sure that you are completely dry, and when we do this, don't pull so tight that you're pulling up your page. You want to try and keep that flat, as flat as you can. And I think that's good there. And I will just do a tie, a rough draft type tie, I guess, preliminary before I chop anything. So I don't want real long, but I'm just gonna chop here. Okay, that's just to start. And then I can always arrange my thing the way I like. I'm kind of fussy when it comes to my bows. I kind of like them to look good. Not too big. And I think that'll work. And I think we're going to place this in our book first, and then we might add some flowers. So I'm going to leave mine tied. And this is the same way that we did the other page. The rest of our pages are just going to go in like this. So once you've done this, this is our 4th one in. We won't have to place them together. We will know to keep that spacing away from those hinges. And I can just say we can plant these in our book. I need to get that little corner in there. And I'm stuck. Okay, make sure you are going the right way. Here is my book. And I'm going to make sure I am away from that. Trying to keep it even with the other one. And I'm going to place it. Now I'm going to untie this, open it up completely, and burnish. especially around that area where we had the ties put on the back. And there's our little thing there. There's that. And now I can tie this nicely. And there we go. And I think that looks pretty good. You can do your bow better or tighter or whatever you'd like. However, I do want to add something. And I think since I have some flowers up here, I'm going to go down here. Now, if you want to still place a flower or a photograph, you can. And I'll use this leaf. Make sure I get those. I like to get the tips to make sure that they stay down. And I'm going to be careful not to overhang off the edge there so it does not interfere with opening and shutting this page. And I'm going to flatten down. I have a 2-layer here, and I will place that. And I'm going to look in my reserves. You Are My Everything. Let's grab it. I found that in my reserves. On the back, it's that color. And I think I'll just chop this down a little bit. Trying to stay pretty even here, but it's not always easy unless you use your paper cutter. And we're going to grab some scrap white cardstock. We'll glue it down and cut out and around, leaving a white little border. Good enough. And I think tucking that right there would look good. And again, if you need to smash down your flowers a little bit. But I think that looks good. We are now on to page 5. And our book should look good on the inside as far as how these kind of fit together. Okay, let's move on. Page 5, we're going to layer up a pocket. So it's going to be a spaced out pocket for both the back and the front. And then we're going to have a little strap that's going to come down that's going to hold everything in, because when we put a space in, and let's say you only want 1 or 2 picture mats, they may come out. So applying a strap will help. So let's go through these. Our first one is a 5 3/4 by 8 3/8. And then we called it a large pocket. We laid this down on our scoring board. We were 8 3/8 across. We actually scored this one at a 3/8 inch and a 1/2 inch. Then we did 7 7/8 and 8 inch. We turned it once, and that put us at 5 3/4 across. We did the same thing, 3/8 and a 1/2 inch. We just called that a large pocket. And then this one is our small pocket. I forgot to label it for you. The scoring was the same, 3/8 inch, and then we had a 1/2 inch. We had 7 7/8, 8 inch. We turned it once and did 3/8 and a 1/2 inch scoring. For our little strap, what we did was we cut a 1 1/2 inch by 6 1/2 inch, called it a strap. The scoring on this one was actually a 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch. So let's find our base decorative paper. And I think I selected one that is nice. You'll find this in your paper pack. On the other side is this gorgeous paper. Let's first take off that trim piece. So this is what you should have. The first thing I would like you to do is to measure over 7¼ inches and cut. This is what you will have. We'll put that in reserves. We'll turn it, we'll measure over 7¼ inches and cut it this way. And this is the piece we will be left with. Let's start with our large pocket. And down in the corner you will see kind of that square. We're going to cut on the inside score line up to the top one. And we will cut across. We're going to do the same over here to get those out. And now what we're going to do is just fold on those score lines. And we'll do the same over here. You'll get quicker at this as you do more albums. So there are so many different ways to make pockets that everyone has their own way, or they want to try something different. So with this, I wanted us to be able to have a spaced out, meaning it's going to give us more spacing in there. So let's grab our glue, and down here in the corner of this flap, we'll put some glue here and we'll put some glue here. We'll start over here by pulling it in, making sure it's flat on the side, and we will match that up at the bottom. We'll press and hold that until it's holds. Takes a moment. Match that up. I think I got enough glue over there. And I'm going to do the same over here, making sure I kind of push in the side and bring up this to meet it. And I think that's good. My sides are in. So this, I want to make sure that I can see the writing the right way. So you'll be able to see cherish up here and dreams in the background print. For this, we're going to put it like that. It's going to slightly overhang off the side of our page. And that's okay. We're going to glue this down. We're not going to make any fancy little shapes in it. We're just going to leave it. Make sure you get your glue. I'll wipe up any glue that kind of seeps out there. And I'm going to bring it all the way to the bottom. Now, one thing is you'll want to make sure that you have even overhang on each side. So I'm going to pick this up, kind of look, make sure I'm straight. And I will burnish. And I'll get the back too to make sure that's making good contact. So as you can see, I just have a little bit overhanging, and that'll be perfectly fine. So I want to find the paper that I'd like to use for this. And for this one, in your reserves, you will find this print. Looks like this. And I'm going to turn it upside down. The house is upside down. There's a panel over here. I'm going to measure over 7¼ inches and cut. I'm just going to place that down. We'll have white border off to the side, and that should fit, giving you a nice white border up here. But we're going to place paper because we have some scraps to use. I'm going to apply glue to this side and get that down. What's neat about these colors is almost anything goes together, so you can just be grabbing and placing. So I'll get that down. Looks pretty even to me. And now I'm going to find our strip for up here. I found what I would like to use. In your paper pack, you will find this print on the back is this gorgeous color. Let's take off that trim piece. Got my trim piece off there. I'm just going to flip this over. What I would like you to do is put this on your paper cutter. And you see where this have a beautiful day sentiment is, and you see where it meets over here. We're just going to cut to divide this, and then we're going to cut that strip for have a beautiful day. So I'll show you. So this is what you have left, and you should have a beautiful day, and then these all can go back in our reserves for right now. We will be getting back after this one in a moment, but I thought that this would be a nice transition into that, so I'm just going to measure to fit, and I'm going to scoop mine over so I can get that, have that beautiful day, and this be in the center. So right here I need to cut, and right here. Wish me luck doing by hand. So cut that, and you may want to put this on your paper cutter. Don't know if I got that straight. I'm going to be sticking this back in my reserves, and I'm going to glue this down to the top to cover the white and leave a little bit of a white trim on the top there so it matches the rest of our framing. Very simple. Place that down. And that's a nice transition from the colors into this. Let's grab our small pocket. Again, we're going to cut on that inside score line up to the top to get that out, and then we're going to fold on those score lines. So I've got that all done. I'm just going to kind of push in my sides a bit there. Make sure my bottom is pushed up and flat, and we're going to do the same thing here. Just a little in the corners. And we will bring this up, match it up, and we will hold this until our glue sets. Okay. All we do with this is we're going to apply our glue around the outside, and then we're just going to put that right on top there. So here we go. And I need that to hold down a little bit longer. I think once I get this down, it'll hold a little better. I didn't quite hold it with my fingers long enough. So bring it to the bottom of my page, match it up, and that looks good. And I'm going to give a moment for this. I'm going to try and slide my tool in there. This one's pretty fat, so this little thinner one might be the best choice. Making sure that it's making contact and down. Okay, while that is drying, we are going to grab our strap, and what we are going to do is fold on those score lines. And we're going to place the magnet. And that way, since there's so much room in here, that when this is on and comes down, if you shuffle around your mini album or turn it upside down, it's not going to fly out on you. Okay, so here is our flap. We have a bottom score line and the top one. On that top one, I want you to pinch and crease, so you'll be able to see the other one. And we're going to hook it back behind in the center. We'll pinch and hold that, and we'll glue this flap down. And then we'll get into our magnets. Okay, here is a trick. You're going to want to pull that up. You may want to give just a slight little bend to this without creasing it. grab a plus and we will set it. Now when we set this, I would like you to set this at least an inch down from the top here, at least in the center. We'll grab the mate, which is the minus, and before you pull this over, I kind of want to show you so you're not pulling on that spacing. And we did kind of give it a slight bend, but make sure you can feel that it's flat, and then you can place that. It will find the mate. That way you're not pulling it against this and flattening it out. It has space in there because you're going to want to use this for a lot of your photo mats. Okay, we have that. We can now carefully lift that up and find our paper for this. And I already decided on what I wanted to use. And remember this, we just stuck this in our reserves. We're going to look at it this way. We're going to measure over. What was that? We'll measure over 3 7/8 inch and cut. So that is what we will have, and now all we have to do is measure over 7 1/4 inch and cut. That should be a great fit, giving you that little white lip, and I think those colors look wonderful. So we can get this down now, and then we'll work on the strap. We'll center that side to side. That looks good. Where is my tool? Looks good. Our paper for this, oh, I think I might want to use the same print because we got some of the greens and stuff like that. So we'll look at it like this. We're going to measure over 1 3/8 inch and cut that all the way down. So this is the piece that we want. We're going to measure to fit, and we'll have a nice little border around that. And what I'm going to do is whatever I cut on this, I'll match it up to that. And this is something I do want to use my paper cutter with, definitely, because I know I will not get a straight cut. So there is one. And then for the inside, I'll just match them up and I can make my cut. And I'll erase my little pencil mark. All right, so for this, it's going to go right like that. And I think I would like to maybe get a little point on that. So I'm going to look and try to find the center, and I'm going to do that little trick I showed you. I'm going to cut, then I will bring this over to the side, match it up, cut again. And now when I cut down here, I should be okay with my magnet because my magnet's up here. Now, so we don't have to do it after the fact, because this print is going to be under here, what I'm going to do is you'll look at this one like this, and you will put this one up like that, and then we will cut. So you can get the same. So this one's going to be the underside. We have to take care of this one first. Make our cut on the white, and then the other one should fit in there. And should have a nice white border there. Okay, I got this. Now this is very easy. I'm just going to cut at an angle. And if you'd like to flip this over to the other side so you can get exactly the same, you can do that. And I think I might do that. Okay, so there's that. Now this one you should be able to glue down and it will fit without interfering with that top score line. And the glue will go on this one. So this page is very thick. Bring that up. So before I decide whether or not I want to put any flowers or anything on it, I'm going to get this in my book first. And I'll work from there because I think I might want to do something right here, but I want to see how thick this is. Let's flip that over. Score tape around the outside like a picture frame, one down the middle and one or two on each side. And actually for this one, let's place this in our book together because we are quite thick at the edge and going over a little, which is fine. We do have the space to accommodate that in our book, but I think it's best that we do this together so everyone gets it on correctly. Okay, after you burnish this down really good, grab your book. Okay, we are very thick on this. You should still have enough room to place it, but when we place this one, the side of this is going to match up to the side of your paper. And that will give you a little more room in through here. So I'll do that. So we'll match it up to the side of this, to the side of this. Make sure top and bottom are even. Now when you're doing that, remember you're going to have white showing right here for your paper. And then we're going to press. And you'll see you've got a lot more room here, and then we look like an 8 or so, 3/16 in through here. But that just gives you a little more room. And then I'm going to burnish this down really good. And you have a lot of space in those pockets. Lots of space. And there it is. Okay, we have a pretty thick spacing, but if I was to do this, we have enough room. So I'm going to grab a leaf, and I'm going to grab a flower that is 2-layer or even 3-layer, but I'm going to mash it down just a little bit, and I'm going to place that right there. So my leaves are going to hang off. Now if you didn't color the back like me, you can always add some green ink to the back in case you can see some of that. This is going to be hanging off. And you'll want to make sure you get your glue on there pretty good. So right about here I think is good. I'll place my flower right here. And I'm going to let that dry. But we should be okay with our spacing when it comes to this. Perfectly fine. And that's a beautiful page. Let's move on to page 6. We're already on page 6, and in your paper pack you will find another one of these prints. On the back it looks like that. We're going to take off that trim piece. There are no pre-cuts for this. I decided we're going to leave this so we can do picture placement. So let's flip this over, and I'd like you to turn it like this. You have the house up here. We're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. So that's what you should have. Your house is down here. We're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This is our base page. Our score tape's going to go on this side with our flowers. When we're looking at it, it's going to be beautifully down here. So let's flip this over and add our score tape. And what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to go around the outside edges like a picture frame. We'll go one down the middle and one on either side. That's all that's needed. And then we're going to plant this in our book, and then we can add some flowers if we'd like. There is nothing special about planting this one in our book. Ooh, I need to burnish. It's just going to go in like we have on the other pages, with the exception, of course, what we just did for page 5. We have that white border going around our very large spaced out pockets, so even though we put it all the way over to the edge, it still looks like there is the white border. So nothing special needs to be done with this one other than placing it. So this, sometimes it's easier to slide something back behind your page so I can actually see what I'm doing. Make sure you know where that hinge is, and then we will place it. I think right there would be good. And we'll burnish that down. I could have shifted this over quite a bit more, but it's all good. It's flat. And I think that that is a beautiful layout for us. I do want to add some flowers, I think, and some leaves. So I'm going to throw some down here and see what it looks like. And again, I'm going to flatten this down just a little bit. Whoops, there goes my flowers. I think I got them. And I think I'll just place a white one here and another white one over there. Like that. Get my leaves down. Place that in the center. Some of my white ones. And I think that looks really good. Let me see if there's anything else that I would like to add, because we could definitely add Celebrating You. That could apply to anything. And you know what? I'm going to place it. If you do not want to, you don't have to. But that goes with many albums, especially if you have a special photo. Graduation photo, birthday, get together. So we'll place that down and we'll cut out and around it and place it. You know, perhaps you have somebody who recovered from COVID, or perhaps even cancer or some illness. This would be an awesome place to put their photo, Celebrating You. They made it, and it's awesome. So Celebrating You. Could be anything. Could be an anniversary picture too. I think that looks wonderful. Check it out. Beautiful. We are now on to page 7. We're on page 7, and this is our waterfall page. And on our pre-cuts, we cut 5 pieces that were 4.5 by 5 1/4. And we laid this on our scoring board, so we were 4.5 across, and on each one we scored it at a 1/2 inch, just like this. We also had a couple straps. One was a 1.5 by 6.5. We called it our top strap. We laid this on our scoring board. It was 6.5 across, and we scored at a 1/2 inch and 5/8 inch. We had the bottom strap, and that was 1.5 by 4 inches. We laid that on our scoring board. We were 4 inches across, and we did a 1/2 inch and 5/8. For our base decorative paper, I chose this one. You'll find it in your paper pack. On the back, it is this. Let's take off that trim piece. Here is our piece. We're going to turn it sideways, and we're going to measure over 7¼ inches and cut. And once we made that cut, we'll measure over 7¼ inches and cut it that way. We are all ready to go. There is our base decorative paper. We'll have our stripes going up and down. What we're going to do with each one of our 4.5 by 5¼ is we're just going to fold on those score lines. And then we're going to burnish it, make it nice and crisp. We'll be conserving paper on this because there is quite a few of these. We're going to grab our 3/8 inch score tape. If I can locate mine. There we go. And here is the little flap with the peak up. All we're going to do is lay our score tape on there. Right on there without getting on the score line. Just right in between there. And we're going to burnish that really good. And we're going to do that with each one. These are okay. All right, so let's grab our base sheet and grab your pencil. What we're going to end up doing is folding this back, and it will attach. So if you would like to just place your first one down, don't take your score tape off, but place your first one down, and you can use the stripes to help keep you straight on your paper. Try to anyway. From the bottom, we're going to measure up a 1/2 inch, and you can put a little pencil mark there that you can erase. And that, so when we pull this back, we take the score tape backing off, it will help us to know how far down this should hit, and we can look side to side to keep it straight. Now, score tape is unforgiving, so if you get it on crooked, it's going to go on crooked. This is a great time where you can use your glue so that you can maneuver it. And we're going to fold that back, the stickies down, and we're going to place this. Just take your time. I may have gotten mine on a little crooked, but I'm not going to worry about that. By the time I am done, it'll be okay. Okay, we're going to burnish down and make that real crisp. The rest of these are pretty easy. Again, you can dab some glue on there to help you. We're going to release, we're going to fold it. We're just going to flip it over so the sticky's on the back, and we are going to line it up with the other one, trying to stay straight, and we will place that. And we will crease. And it should help you keep straight with the next one. And we'll do that again. Try to line that up, press it up against the other. And place it. Get this one on. Line that up. And place it. And our last one. Place it. Okay, so this is what yours should look like. Again, if you get it just a little bit off, it's okay. We do have a strap and we'll have our paper. It'll be all right. And especially if this is your first one, don't sweat it. Let's find our decorative paper. In your reserves, you will find this strip. On the back, it is the blue. And we have the birds down here, but we're going to turn this upside down because we're going to start measuring over this way. We're going to measure over 5 1/8 inch and cut. And we'll see how that goes. Let's see, from side to side, this looks good. It'll still give us a little bit of a white border. So we'll turn it this way and we're going to measure over 3 7/8 inch and cut. We're going to verify that this fits in there, leaving us a little bit of a white border side to side, top to bottom, and it does. Let's glue this down. And we will place it. For the rest of these, we're not going to be cutting full pieces because we're going to conserve. What we're going to do is be cutting 1/2 inch strips along the bottom, so then it will look nice. So I'm going to look in our reserves to get the scraps so that we can make good use of those smaller ones. I found a bunch of scraps that I feel that may be a good choice, and I'm going to show you and you'll find them, but I have this one. And the ones that you're looking for is the ones that are going to be long enough to go across, and we will cut these down, but I just kind of wanted to show you. If you want to take a moment to pause the video and kind of fish these out, here's one. Here's another strip, and these are about 1/2 inch. This will be good. I also found this one. I found this. I found a green strip. I found this, which is off of this. That'll be perfect. And then I found a couple more. So what we're going to do is on each one of these, this one should be good, but on each one of these, what we're going to do is we're going to measure over 5 1/8 inch and we're going to cut them. This one you're going to be able to get 2 5 1/8 inch pieces. So let's take a moment and cut those. I cut mine all to a 5 1/8 inch length here. On each one of these now, we're going to measure over a 1/2 inch and cut. So we'll have 1/2 inch by 5 1/8 inch pieces. So let's do that. I've got all my strips done. Now I probably have more than enough, but I'll show you what we can do if we have some leftovers here. So you'll have several of these, and this would be a nice color. So all we're going to do is glue these down, leaving a little bit of white border, and it should match up, so then we're going to get a nice color. So I'm going to start this way, and you can grab what one you want. We have so many. I'm just going to grab this one. And then I'm going to fish out another one. And we're going to keep placing these at the bottom. Trying to get them even side by side so it looks good. And we will keep going. And you can use any side you want. That's pretty, and that has the birds on it. I think I'll use that. Okay, so when you flip it down, it's going to look something like this with the colors that you chose. So now we're going to do it at the top. There we go. It's really early in the morning right now here, so hopefully you don't hear the TV going in the background. Hear a little Tanner in the background playing. We do have some extras, that's kind of nice. And I'll show you what we'll do with those in just a moment. Okay, so we have these. And I think now I want to get in between. Now, for in between, you may have to slice these down a little bit if they don't fit, because you don't want them to interfere or buckle up. So I am going to shave off, let's see, I need 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 of these strips, which I have. Right now they're a 1/2 inch. I'll probably shave it down to about a 3/8 inch. And that will make it so it'll fit better in between. So let's take a moment and get those shaved down a little more. Once you get them shaved down, what we're going to do is we'll apply glue, and we will glue them there in between. And we'll burnish those down. As soon as I get mine down, I'll show you what mine looks like. Okay, so here is mine, all glued down. And before we, nope, we're going to get the strap on. So that's what mine looks like, and when it's flat, it will look like this. And I think those are some really pretty colors to go. Let's start with our top strap, and we'll fold on those score lines. And we'll grab the bottom strap and do that too. Okay, the top one. Here's my little hinge up there. We have a bottom score line and a top one. On the top one, we're going to pinch and crease that. And we're going to hook it in the middle, somewhere in the middle, back behind. We'll hold it and we'll glue that down. The bottom one, here is our lower score line and the top one. On the top one, we're going to pinch and crease that. We're going to slide that one underneath, like so. Or you can go on top, it doesn't matter at this point. As long as you are lined up straight there, as straight as you can. Pinch and hold mine. And then the magnets can help with lining them up and getting them a little straighter if needed. So, and then we're going to push back on those score lines so it is flat. We're going to give the top one just a little bit of a bend. We can give this one a little bit of a bend, and let's place our magnets here. So I'm going to grab a plus and a minus. And I'm going to start with the top. So on the top, you are definitely going to want to come down in the middle a good inch. And I think we're still going to be able to reach that because I gave us extra room, and we will. Okay, we're going to place this. So this is what's really important, is you're going to want to make sure that this is laying flat. Okay, and you're just going to tap this. Remember, we gave it just a little bit of a bend to help it. This one, a little bit of a bend. When I remove this, what's going to happen is I'm going to hold this down with the paper, the waterfall with my hand. I'll hold this one down as long as I'm not pulling on it, and I will let this fall naturally on top. So we'll do that again together. It's just to help with getting a better fit with the magnets so they stay aligned and they're not pulling one way. So I got my hand here. I got the stickies off that. I have this down, have my bend, and now I'm going to make sure that these line up at the bottom as best I can and press. So now when this is all flat, it should hold, as you can see. Okay, carefully press that up, and we're going to get our paper for this. In your reserves, you will find this piece. On the back, it looks like this. This is approximately, this is about 4 7/8 by about 7 1/4, and this will work good for both straps. So the first thing we're going to do is, we're going to do our strips first. We're going to measure over 1 3/8 inch and cut. We'll measure over again 1 3/8 inch and cut. We'll start there. Alright, and this is what you should have left. Let's just kind of place that off to the side. So I have this, it has a lot of the greenery, and I am going to measure to fit. So I'm going to place this down, making sure I have white cardstock up here, and I'm going to look at the bottom of this strap, and I'll make my pencil mark, and I'm going to trim this one. For this other strip, now I know how much I need, and I can cut it. And I'm going to erase some pencil mark. Okay, so this is the time where we can actually get a curve or whatever we want. I'm going to be clipping, and remember, it's always easier to clip your decorative paper first. So I'm going to look in the middle somewhere and clip over. And that little piece here, I'm going to flip over to the other side. Line it up in the corner to try and get the most even cut the same. So now when I place this down, when I cut my white, it'll be good. Now, I'm going to also need a back side. And this is going to be it, but I'm going to flip this over so I'm looking at the side that's going to have the glue on it, and I will just match these up, and I'm going to cut. So now I should have even. Okay, I'm going to unlatch this really quick. Well, maybe not yet, but we'll take care of one thing at a time. Let's glue our first one down, then we're going to clip our white top strap. Place that down evenly. I'm going to lift that, and I'm going to cut it. Leaving that white border. Perfect. Lift that up. Now when I apply glue, it's going to look good. So I take care of all that together. we'll glue that down. For the bottom strap, there is no clipping or anything. We're just going to lay our paper. Okay, and remember this? This will work great. So all we need to do on this one is we're going to measure over 1 3/8 inch and cut. And I have this, and I'm just going to lay it down and measure to fit, and I will be able to get 2 pieces out of this one. So there's my first one. I'm going to cut, and then I'll use it to cut this one. There's one. And I'll lay this one over this. Cut that. And glue this one down. Very simple. A little more color there, huh? I'm just going to keep it all the same. Alrighty. Oh, if you still have a pencil mark down here for where we made that line, you can erase that now. Okay, let's check it out. And that should look really good and hold us. Let's flip this over and we're going to apply our score tape. We'll go around the outside like a picture frame. 1 down the middle and 2 on either side of that. And then we're going to place this in our book, and we can add some flowers once it's in the book if we'd like. So let's get this done, and I will meet you back at the book. I've got all the score tape backing off from behind, and I am just going to place this. Make sure I have a little bit of a white border here. I'm going to press it down. That's it, just like we've been doing. And there we have it. Very good. Let's see if there's anything I'd like to do. I kind of like when I put the leaves on there and then maybe a little flower. And we'll see what I can come up with. I think that'd look really nice. And because I might have a little overhang, I think I might even put a little green back behind the leaves. This is a flat leaf, but you don't have to have flat. Whoops. And just a flower. Page 7 is complete. We are now on to page 8.